Am I the arsehole? Real stories, raw judgments. You decide. This story is from Wonderful Trash. So I have this friend, let's call him Brian, who won't shut up about his IQ. Ever since he took some online test that said he got a 131, he's been acting like he's a second coming of Einstein. At first it was just kind of annoying. He'd drop random fun facts about how high IQ people process information differently. He started using words like erudite and obfuscate in normal conversations. But then it got worse. He started low-key insulting us. He told our friend Emily, who's in med school, that
doctors are just good at memorization, not real intelligence.
He told me I was wasting potential because I work in marketing instead of something more intellectually rigorous. The dude works in IT at a help desk. Anyway, last week we were at a party and he started talking about IQ again. Someone jokingly asked,
"If you were so smart, why aren't you rich?"
And Brian, completely serious, goes,
"Well, intelligence isn't always about wealth. It's about how you process the world. Low IQ people can never truly grasp how limiting their perception is."
So I looked at him dead in the eye and said,
"Damn, bro, that's crazy. What's it like having a high IQ and still losing at fantasy football every year?"
The room exploded. Brian turned red, mumbled something about variance and sample sizes, and left the party early. Now he's barely texting in the group chat, and a mutual friend told me I embarrassed him too much. And now, naturally, half the group has been testing their IQs just to mess with him. Someone dropped this 10-minute Cerebrum IQ test in the chat, and it became a full-blown competition. If Brian was a genius, you'd think he'd take it again and prove us all wrong, but nah. Suddenly he's not a fan of online tests anymore. Am I the arsehole for finally saying something, or did he have it coming? This story is by Hayley, CzTC. I, female and 26, am white, and my fiancé, male and 31, is originally from Japan, but has pretty much been living here in the States since he was 13. And yes, he is a US citizen. I also have a group of friends from college, and in that group was a woman who we'll call Karen, who's female and 25. She was the sister of our friend, who I will call Ruth. Ruth, who is a genuinely nice person, was our friend, but her sister Karen was the golden child sibling who only hung out with us because she cannot maintain real-life relationships of her own, in part due to her antisocial tendencies. When Ruth moved here to the northeast for college from Mississippi, Karen also followed her, and their mum pushed Ruth to let Karen stay with her. Unlike the five of us, Karen did not go to college with us, scoffed at the idea of higher education, and the only things she knew were what she saw online or whatever her boyfriend of the day was into. Over the years, she gradually became more and more hateful towards the LGBT community, Jews, and immigrants. Thus, we kind of started distancing ourselves after first noticing it in around 2020 or so. Ruth unfortunately passed away in 2023 after a biking accident, but we continued to allow Karen to hang around with us, out of pity I guess, but a couple of people in our group outright cut her off after Ruth's passing. However, the breaking point was in October last year when Karen reported my fiancé to ICE because she thought or wanted to believe he was an undocumented migrant, and when we confronted Karen, the conversation boiled down to that she felt it was wrong for me as a white woman to be with an Asian man, and she felt that white girls like me should be with men that looked like me, and she felt uncomfortable of how my family was so welcoming and accepting of my fiancé. I come from a very liberal, upper-middle-class family, and we'd often take my fiancé out with us on family outings, be it at our family's vacation home in Lake Champlain, or sailing to Block Island on my grandpa's yacht. That said, Karen felt that someone of my status should be with someone who looked like me, saying that my fiancé didn't deserve my family, or words to that effect, and that she plainly said she wanted my fiancé deported so she could try and hook me up with her brother or her then-boyfriend. Mind you, her then-boyfriend, with whom she has a kid with, and his brother, a misogynist who constantly shares Andrew Tate interviews, can't hold a job for long, yet expects women to stay home and know their place, whereas my fiancé works in mental health and I work for my grandpa's law firm. After that, the rest of us just told her to F off. Up until the last week or two, we've got no contact with her. That said, after her boyfriend left her with their son, she showed up at my door with her baby one day to demand that, since my family is well off, I should help her, buy her groceries, and ask my grandpa to give her a job since her EBT card wasn't working and her now ex has vanished. I remind her of how she tried to get my fiancé deported and how I'm also not her friend and that she should fuck off. She's also been badgering others in our friend group, and her mum even called me, telling me off for not helping Karen and trying to justify what Karen did and said, "She's just doing what's best for you." I then asked her, since she's Karen's mum, why doesn't she help her and bring her back home? Which the mum said that her new boyfriend doesn't like having Karen around or her kids. I reminded Karen's mum that Ruth was her friend, but Karen was not, and we have no obligations to Karen. For those wondering why we put up with Karen, Ruth was super nice and an amazing person, but she was also easily manipulated and pressured by her mum. That said, Ruth's mum said that if Karen wasn't allowed to hang out with us, Ruth wouldn't be allowed to hang out with us either. And yes, Ruth was an adult, and she couldn't break the control and the manipulation her mum had over her. Admittedly, pity did kinda cloud our judgment, and yes, I agree we should have cut Karen off immediately when we first noticed her racist and homophobic tendencies, if not ban her from hanging out with us to begin with. Here's the update. For this Valentine's Day weekend, my fiancé and I drove up to my vacation home for a few days of relaxing, hot cocoa, chill, and Netflix. Yesterday, my friends who I will call Chantel and Kate called me to say that Karen came back and knocked on Kate's door, demanding that we let Karen back into our friendship group. She also wanted us to support her as well as demanding to speak to me and my fiancé. Karen came along with her mum, her son, her stepdad, and her 2 stepbrothers, who decided to drive up from Mississippi for this. Chantel and Kate told Karen we don't want anything to do with her, as well as mentioning that my fiancé and I were away and not in town. They got into an argument with Karen's mum calling Kate Kamala in a mocking tone. Note that Kate is mixed race and her mum is black and her dad is white. With Karen's mum telling them that since we are friends with Ruth, we, for some reason, need to do what she says and need to support Karen and her child. Chantel told Karen's mum that just because it was easy for her to manipulate and boss around Ruth doesn't mean she gets to do the same with us, as we have nothing to do with Karen or her family. Additionally, she went to say that if Karen is so desperate for support, why doesn't Karen just move back to Mississippi with her family? Then Karen replied saying something along the lines of,
I deserve to live the way you all live.
And Karen's mum mentioned that her husband doesn't want Karen or her kid living with them. When Karen's stepbrother, upon noticing the security cameras in Kate's house, started trying to rip out her doorbell camera, followed by Karen and her family running off when Kate's dad finally called 911. However, before they left, they used their truck to deliberately sidesweep Kate's dad's Lexus, driving into their garage door and Karen shouting, "People like you don't deserve to live in a nice house like this," as they drove away. Given the gravity of the situation, I did notify my parents of what happened and that Karen and her family may try to come over to our home, as well as warn my fiancé as well. I also called the police back in my hometown on the non-emergency line of the incident at Kate's home, and that Karen's family may try to come over again to my home. Thankfully, they haven't done so yet. In turn, Kate and Chantel have also given statements to the police as well. Just a note, no real names were used in this story, and certain small details were changed a little just for the sake of privacy of everyone involved. So, am I the arsehole for not helping our former friend who tried to get my fiancé deported? This story is by Spiritualist. I'm 28 and female, and my sister Jamie, 38 and female, has 3 kids. Melanie, Sarah, and Carl, with her ex-husband, whom she divorced 6 months ago due to her cheating with her current boyfriend, Daniel, who's 62 and a male. Jamie's kids are absolute brats, and the last time they came over, 3 years ago, Melanie smashed a vase and Sarah scribbled on my Uggs with a permanent marker. This was when I decided to become child-free. I also decided to distance myself from them, though I do speak to them and we do have the occasional family dinners at my aunt's place. Anyways, Jamie and Daniel are expecting a child, a boy, and they decide to go on a baby moon, which will happen in a week. They are not very wealthy, and Jamie spent nearly all of her money on the trip, and Daniel will work double shifts till then and after the baby moon to support both of them. So they did not hire a babysitter. Yesterday, Jamie unexpectedly called me, asked if I could babysit her kids. I said no, as I have been getting a degree online and I have to fly to where my university is for my graduation ceremony. At first she tried to persuade me, saying her kids are absolute darlings, and I won't even notice they're there. I said that my answer was still the same, and then she went off on a rant and called me all kinds of shit, like that I'm a heartless bitch who can't have a little compassion for her poor pregnant sister. I told her that if she wants somebody to work for her for free, she can get a job and not sleep with men who are old enough to be her father in the hope that they are rich. She hung up and is now bombarding me with texts begging me to reconsider. I am beginning to feel a bit guilty. Should I have been nicer to Jamie? Am I the arsehole? This is a story from Dry Shock. Hi all, 28 and female here, currently in school to be an LMT. As part of our programme, we were expected to bring a guest with us to school to do an intake interview, postural evaluation and gait analysis, and then perform an hour-and-a-half-long massage on our clients. I asked my boyfriend, 30 and a male, if he could come with me this evening as my grandmother had to cancel. He agreed to go with me, but was gripping about how it was going to be awkward getting massaged in front of like 50 people. He originally wanted to watch Game of Thrones tonight, and I owe him. I drove over to his place a bit beforehand to kind of go over the details of the class and what would be expected of him, and what would be expected of me as well to prepare. Every time I ask him a basic intake question, like, "Are you in pain right now?" he just responded in an irritated tone or gave me one-word answers. When we finally got to the school, his first question after we sat down was,
"So, how long are we going to be here again?"
As I was doing the massage, he started messing with me by pretending his left hand was right under the sheet or whispering in my ear,
"What if I got a boner right now?"
and making his legs super heavy when he was supposed to just let me move his leg so I could drape him. The worst was when I was doing the energy work. He took the sheet over his head so he looked like a ghost and then pretended to convulse and make ghost sounds. So I just lost all composure and had to stifle my laughter for the last 5 minutes. I get he works a lot and it wasn't the ideal situation. He was just goofing, trying to make me laugh. But I feel like his behaviour was low-key embarrassing and put the grade for my assignment at risk. I passed with only a 1-point deduction for something super minor. But am I the arsehole? Does it sound like I'm saying his showing up wasn't good enough or something like that? The Am I the Arsehole podcast is not affiliated with Reddit or any other online message boards. All the stories featured are narrated and produced with the author's permission. Please email me your stories to amithearseholepodcast@gmail.com if you'd like to hear your stories read in future programmes. And that's spelled AITAH podcast@gmail.com. You can also check in the show notes for the email. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Take care.